Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Odd online dating podcast. I'm your host, Craig Palmer, and my co host, Arena Duhart. Woo! Isn't she looking good tonight? So, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about love and compatibility. So, is love and compatibility, and this is in my book where I talk about love and compatibility.
Okay.
Because do you need to be in love? Can you be in love with someone that you're not compatible with? Do you think you can be in love with someone that you're not compatible with?
I think so, definitely. Hmm.
Um, I guess you can, although I would think that if you're in love with them and you're not compatible, what are you in love with? I mean, because I know there's some women that, they get I don't know if they get a bad rap or not, but they're after guys for their money. So do you think those guys, those women that are after guys for their money, I would think in some cases they're not compatible with the person. But,
Why not?
well, think about it. If a guy, you just said a person could be in love with someone but not compatible. So maybe they don't
Hmm.
have the same likes, dislikes, and things like that, but they love them because what they can provide for them.
Hmm. But is that being in love? So you're, that's why I always, this is such an interesting topic to me because I feel like there's a difference between loving someone and being in love with them because there's four different types of love that we can display for people. So you can absolutely love a person and not be in love with them or have that. So when you're saying in love, are you referring to like a romantic type of love for them or are you referring to like a loyal type of love for them? Like what type of love are you referring to?
Let me ask you, would you want a loyal type of love?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So wait a minute,
Right.
because when I say all right, because maybe all right. You might need to explain these to me then, because uh, in love with someone, is that the same as loyal love?
It's a part of it. It's
Be-
absolutely a part of it. So
Because
according, okay, so the thought process is there's four types of love. There's eros, which is a romantic love, which is what these people are familiar with. Then you have storge, which is familial love, the type of love that a parent would have for a child. But then you also have philia love, which is the type. It's a type of love that you have when you grow close to somebody and they become like a brother to you. So that's philia. But then there's agape, which is the loyal type of love that you learn to love someone based off of what you've come to know for them. So the thought is, once you marry someone or you get to the point where you're in love with them, you should be displaying all four types of those loves. But sometimes the fourth one, especially like agape, it takes a while to get to that point. It could be, I mean, think of arranged marriages. They may be compatible, but they're not in love with each other. The parents thought that they were compatible, but they're not in love. But they can grow to be in love with them based off of the loyalty of the years they've been together. They might have romantically now, fell in love with a person. So I think it really comes down to if people really understand what love is, and I think people misappropriate the use of the word a lot.
so, do you want a love where someone is married to you and they fall in love with you 20 years later?
Do I want it?
Yeah.
No. Has it
Well,
happened? Has it happened for people and it been successful? Yes. But I will be honest with you, Craig. I will be honest with you. My first husband, I was not in love with him. I did, and I think this happens for a lot of women, especially when they get married young. Sometimes, especially like for us city girls, we get married to get out the house. So he was a good provider. He was very attractive. We had great years together. We were excellent best friends, but I wasn't in love with him. I fell in love with him later on as he showed me how good of a father he was. And, but throughout the years, I mean, we ended up divorcing, but I think that there's a lot of people that get married based off of the compatibility and not be in love, and then vice versa. Because we were definitely compatible. We were excellent business partners.
yeah, I mean, I personally would prefer to be in love with someone if I'm going to marry them. I don't, because I may need to write those four different type of loves down, right? Because I want the love where the person's excited to see me come home. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the one where they're looking at me like, well, he's a good fighter, right? No, I want you to be excited when I come home. I want you to be, that doesn't sound like excitement. That doesn't sound like, when you close the bedroom door, you're like, hey, like, not, you don't want to tear the person's clothes off because you just like them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Going back to this terminology about people like gold diggers that marry only for money, they can be excited as soon as you walk through that door. Like I got a check coming through. They can still have an excitement. Like yes, Daddy's home. I'm about to go shopping. There can still be a level of excitement. Now, are they sexually excited for that person? Maybe not. Are they excited about just hanging out with the person? Maybe not. But they can still be excited that hey, we about to go shopping. We about to do stuff. So what type of excitement are you looking for? Are you looking for that type of excitement where like it's just romantic? Like, oh, they just can't wait to rip your clothes off of you and just throw you in the bedroom? Or what
you know
excitement are you
what?
looking for?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, right, I'll give you an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had an ex-girlfriend that got married, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she said she married the guy because she married the guy because he wanted the same thing she wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in love with her, but she wasn't in love with him, but she married him, right? And then 17 years later, right, I bump into her, and we talking, and she says to me, I've never loved my husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why she knew she didn't love her husband was because after seeing me, she says, the feelings that I have for you, I've never had for my husband,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she's like, in seeing you, all the feelings that I had from you, or for you in the past came back,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple of months later, me and her talk, and she says, I left my husband, right? And I said, you left your husband? She's
For
like,
you?
yeah. And I said, well, why did you leave your husband? She says, because it's not fair to him, right, to be married to him all this time and never love him, right? And so she leaves him. And then,
What was his perspective? See, I would counter that because what if he was in love with her and he was fine with the amount of love or the type of love she was able to give him?
right, but he was fine with it, yeah, because all of these years he's been with her. But you know what? When someone's with you and they're not in love with you, quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly, in my opinion, they don't operate the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't, there's certain things that they won't do, right? There's that, you don't have that lovey-dovey kind of feeling, right? And you want to have that feeling, especially if you meet someone online. You know what I mean? I don't think you should marry somebody and not have that lovey-dovey feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I know you roll your eyes.
Because I think that some of us continue to live in the rom com world, and that is not what true love is. I just don't, because the true love is getting to the nitty gritty. I think now because I'm older and I've been married for so long, my late husband, we were married for 17 years, so I learned what true love actually meant. True love is when only one of you is able to function, and you have to take care of that person, on their deathbed as they're dying.
Mhm.
That's true love. And all the other romantic stuff and all that goes out the window, at that point, to a certain degree, is what I'm saying. Because I'm not thinking about, oh, I can't wait to rip his clothes off when I'm trying to take care of his health physically, and I think
Mhm.
that longevity is what you need, the time to really be able to fall in love with a person. I think people say, oh, I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you. But I think that's just scratching the surface. I mean, I feel like love will grow and it needs to be nurtured. And I think we're looking for those butterflies, those feelings, and they may not always come immediately. Sometimes it comes with time.
You know what? I'm going to say that that's probably how men and women differ.
So you get the
Because,
butterflies immediately.
I'm sorry, I'm going to need some butterflies. Like, I can't be with you just because I'm anticipating that I'm gonna fall in love with you down the road.
No, it's not
Or
about participating, falling in love. I think people are automatically looking for that deep, deep in love connection. Like, oh, I want to be with you 24/7, and it's unrealistic.
well, I mean, I kind of think now maybe sometimes lust evolves into love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think love realistically, and
Mm-hmm.
I got to keep it real because that's how I flow. I kind of feel love, there is contingencies about love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't love unconditionally, right? People think, oh, I want to love unconditionally. That's not reality. The
I think.
reality is that, when you're in love with someone, you love them because there's certain things that they've done to make you fall in love, right? Like they've done certain things and they treat you really
Mm-hmm.
well. They have done certain things that make you desire them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then that to me tends to continue to evolve, right? But that's why I don't think arranged marriages work for people of color, right? Like you don't see a black mama saying, "Hey, let me hook you up with my son," or a black mama saying, "Hey, let me hook you up with my daughter." Like those arranged marriages don't work to me in the black community.
What's the
Now they
difference
might.
between parents doing it in a blind date?
Hmm?
What's the difference between your parents doing it in a blind date?
There's a big difference. The blind date, right? I think is someone is hooking you up because they know you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're, kind of saying, let's throw it, some paint on the wall and see what happens. Parents, I think they're looking at different things. Like your girlfriend, if she hooks you up with a blind date, your
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend knows what you like, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she's not gonna set you up with some dude in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Like she's gonna set you up with a guy that she knows you're gonna be attracted to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you meet this guy, you're attracted to him, he's attracted to you. You
Mm-hmm.
go out, you have a good time, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's take it from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start spending time with the person,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go to the movies, you go out to dinner, and all kind of stuff. You start building a really nice connection with the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, you know what? I like being around her all the time, right? And then you're intimate with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sex is off the chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're
So
like,
this confuses everything, but
well,
go
that's
ahead.
why I said lust evolves, right? So, you're like kind of lusting the person, like, oh my God, I can't wait to see her again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe I would hope she's feeling the same way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it continues to evolve because she does things that, make you happy. She comes home one day and she's like, babe, I bought you your favorite fishing rod, right? And he's like, oh my God, that's the fishing rod I've always wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes home and he's like, "Here, I got a Birkin bag for you. I know you always wanted a Birkin bag." And she's like, "Oh my God, you got me a Birkin bag." So, she's happy, right? And you're both making each other happy, you're both lusting each other, you're both attracted to each other, right? And then boom, over a little bit of time, as you get to know each other, everything kind of starts aligning pretty well, and you decide to marry the person.
Okay.
Mhm. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, I mean, that's what's the difference between your parents doing the same thing? I'm not talking about an old school arrangement. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about that. I'm saying that as like a black parent, um, saying, "Hey, I would like you to date this person," or hooking them up the same way. Like, I would look at that. I mean, it's an arrangement. I'm not talking about like, oh, you have to marry this person. But I know a lot of parents that have like kind of nudged their kids together as they were like growing up throughout the years and have had great relationships because of it.
Well, I think the arranged marriage with parents, right, is a little different because I don't think parents are necessarily looking at the aesthetics, right? Like, at least from what I've seen, right? Like, they're not looking at, like, the mother looks at the guy and is like, he's a doctor, right? But maybe he's not the
Mm-hmm.
most attractive guy in the world, right? But he's a
Mm-mm.
doctor or he's a lawyer, So
Mm-mm.
she introduces the daughter to the guy and is like, hey, you should go out with, so and so. He's a doctor. But she looks
Mhm.
at him and she's not attracted to him.
Mm.
Whereas the blind date from your girlfriend, she's maybe you're a doctor, maybe not. But she's not looking at it from the what he does for a living
Mhm.
necessarily. She's looking at it from, girl, I got this guy. I know you gonna like him, right? And he looks a certain way. And when you look at him, you're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling him.
Because when I was helping my daughter find a husband, I mean, even though she went completely left, I definitely looked at what he looked like because I wanted my grandbabies to be cute. I was not trying to have
Okay,
no
but you're
grandbabies.
not. All right, and listen, I'm not an Indian person, right? And most people are not Indian, right? I only can go by what I've seen on television. And in the Indian community, they have a lot of arranged marriages, right?
Uh-huh.
And from what I've seen, they don't necessarily arrange them based upon looks. They arrange them based upon what the guy does, right?
Yeah,
Does he come
education.
from a
I
good
had a friend
family?
like that too. Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I mean, you're American. You're Americanized. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going to look at it a little differently than Indians. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You're going to look at it maybe a little differently than maybe Africans and stuff like that, right? Because I
But
mean,
I just think that it just going back, kind of circling it back to the point about like being in love and compatibility. I think that having the input of friends and family is essential in helping when it comes to, I mean, a close friend or for me, family is people that I've made my family, not necessarily
hmm
blood. And I think that sometimes you can get a little bit confused and in lust with somebody, and a
hmm
good friend can kind of pull you aside and literally like, what's wrong with you? He's not even good for you. Like there was this one guy I knew like off the door. We were not compatible, but he was a great guy. And I continued to see him just because I enjoyed his company. And I did start to like really like him and have, love for him, which I didn't even like realize until we started growing apart. Well, till I ended the relationship. But like I had a girlfriend pull me aside and be like, he's too little for you. Like she's like, you will dominate this man. Like, you should not even be talking to him. She's like, what are you doing? He's nowhere your type. I'm like, but I can't hurt his feelings, and he's so adorable. But he was really, I mean, he was good. Like, he was great to be around, checked all the boxes, took off of work to take my kids to school, one day and go out to dinner, and he pays for everything and opens the doors and such a gentleman.
hmm So, well, were you lusting for him? No. Yeah, he had, he didn't give you butterflies. You weren't lusting after him, but he was a nice guy. Okay, I kind of think the average, and I'm guessing here, this is just an opinion. I don't think the average woman is gonna go with a guy that she's not super attracted to, unless she's at a point in her life where she's willing to sacrifice um, what she's looking for, right? Like for
Yeah.
me, I ain't settling, right? Now, be honest with you, if I want to be ultimately happy, right?
Mhm.
And this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to say this, but it's going to sound crazy. Realistically, now I'm not going to settle, but if I wanted to be happy today, I probably would be happy getting me an unattractive woman, right? Because
No, that's such a bold things lie. You need to stop right there. You really, because that's never going to happen. I will never believe that of you.
right, because an unattractive woman is probably going to treat me the way I want to be treated, right? And
But
hopefully,
you can give you the
I
butterfly.
get an attractive woman that knows how to take care of her man and cater to her man. But you know what? Sometimes you don't get that.
That's like the
Sometimes
song. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, don't make a pretty woman your wife.
you know what? It's funny because my friends and I we kind of discuss this sometimes, right? Because um, you know, and I'm not saying I necessarily need a woman to cook a meal every day and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear sometimes women online they say, you know what? I want my man to come home and not want for nothing. And that
Mm-hmm.
shit sounds good as all hell. I ain't gonna lie to you. It sounds like, man, I want that.
Listen, let me tell you, I actually get so much joy out of that. I love, and I think that's part of the reason why I love being in a relationship.
Hmm.
I love my man coming home from work, like watching his location, like getting excited, seeing, oh my God,
Hmm.
he's about to turn into my cul-de-sac, having
Hmm.
dinner timed exactly for when he comes in and it's nice and warm, have his plate ready
Hmm.
for him, make his plate, have a drink ready for him, just sit him down at the head of the table, call all the kids in, we say prayer, we have a meal together, discuss our day, or if he doesn't want to talk, don't let him talk, and just let him decompress. Like, I love that. Like, I crave doing stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of women out there like me that love to do that and get that in return. Because I used to do it, because I know a lot of people look at me and are like, oh, well, you're retired now, so you can do all of that. When I worked full time, I used to get up in the morning. Me and my husband would commute to work together. I would make him breakfast, make our lunch. We'd go to work together, meet for lunch, have conversations during lunch,
Hmm.
ride back home together. Like, I just love that. I've always been like that, you know? And I think there's a lot of women out there like me that like to do that as well, or are looking to do that.
And, and and that's why I think the women who are like that are going to ultimately find love quickly, right?
Although I
Because
find it too many times.
huh?
I said I find it too many times. I can't get guys to stop falling in love with me. I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, I need some time. I need some time to get there. But I wanted to say something else too, though. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on this? Like, how you said you don't want to compromise, right? I
Hmm.
feel like if you are genuinely in love with a person, you will compromise for them. I think if you're genuinely and truly in love with a person, you will make compromises.
Well, when you say compromises, compromises in what way?
Okay, so let me give you an example. I always said that if I got married again after my husband passed, I would never ever want to be in a situation with another baby mom. I said I did it 3 times over. It's the worst feeling in the world. I hate when women want to fight each other. I don't ever want to be in that situation again. And here I go. I fell in love with a man who had a beautiful 5-year-old little girl and had, was recently divorced 2 years out. And I'm like, I'm starting all over again. I got kids about to go to college and grandkids, and here I go. But I fell in love with him. That was a compromise for me because I could have just said, you know what, I can't do this. I said I would never do the baby mom thing again, but I wasn't even expecting to fall in love with this man, and I did.
Right.
And I allowed myself to stay in love with him. I feel like that's an example of making a compromise for somebody.
Oh, okay. So to answer that question, no. Because I've been in that situation a few times, and I'll be honest with you, and I don't think she's listening
Understand
right
you.
now, but there was this woman I had
Like,
met online, and she's drop dead gorgeous. She's drop dead gorgeous. She's hardworking. She's articulate. She's smart. All that kind of stuff, and she's got a 2-year-old.
and
Right?
so because of the 2-year-old,
She has a 2-year-old daughter, and I'm like, I can't get past the 2-year-old daughter. I'm
but what
sorry.
if she gave you butterflies? What if she, and that's another subject to discuss. When do you introduce children? What if you were talking for a while, never knew she had children or had a child? You were getting the butterflies, you were excited to see her, and then maybe what, 3 months in, she tells you she has a child. You're just going to drop her like a hot potato?
Correctamundo. I'm sorry, I would. Sorry.
I don't think
Because
that either.
2 years,
But
and I mean,
for
and I've
true,
met up.
she was your soulmate.
No, 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 no. She's not my soulmate with a 2-year-old. Sorry. Because we can't hang out, we can't go do our thing with a 2-year-old. I'm sorry. That's a deal breaker. Sorry. And I've met some women that have children that I met one woman that had a 2-year-old, gorgeous, smart, intelligent. Met another woman with a 5-year-old, gorgeous, attractive. No, I'm sorry, and I can just tell you, like these women, um, very attractive, very accomplished, intelligent, great jobs, all that kind of stuff. But the age of those kids, no, because you gotta understand something. When you meet someone who has children, you have to embrace those kids as well.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so those kids have to be yours. So, if I get with someone with a 2-year old, guess what? Let's just say, because ultimately, let's say eventually you might get married, right? If you
Mhm.
get married, all right, so let's just say 2 years into the marriage, now the kid is 4, and
Mhm.
she's my wife. There are gonna be times I have to watch the kid, right? There's gonna be times that I'm gonna have to, well, I don't think change diapers per se, but,
I
that
hope
might be part of it.
not for.
Um, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna have to watch the kid. I'm gonna have to, do things. And I'm so far removed from young kids. Like, I'm sorry, I would have to say no. And unfortunately, because someone told me, I'll give you another example. Someone said to me, "What if you met your soulmate and she smoked?" Well, guess what?
Mhm.
If my soulmate smokes, then she's not my soulmate, right? Because I want someone who
Mhm.
doesn't smoke. I've seen the effects of what tar and nicotine does. My father
Mhm.
died from lung cancer. So I
Mhm.
know I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the
But
taste
what
of
if
it.
she quits?
Hmm?
What if she knows how important it is to you and she quits?
Uh, But you know what?
So you're too quick to
No.
discount. I think because you just feel like, oh, there's all these women out there. I'll just go on to the next one instead of trying to nurture something that could possibly be right in front of you.
You don't listen. You don't change anyone. I've learned that a long time ago.
I didn't say
The
change.
worst.
I said nurture. I didn't
No,
say change. I said
you
nurture.
did because you said, "What if she quits?" That means she's making a change for you, right?
But no, she
And
could also be doing it for herself, realizing. But what's wrong if somebody wants to make a change for you? What's wrong if somebody wants to grow for you?
what I found was that, and if they want to do that, wonderful, right? Because I'll give you an example. My daughter's mother, she stopped smoking. She used to kind of dabble a little bit with a cigarette here and there. And when we got together, I told her, I was like, listen, if you smoke, I can't be involved with you. And she said, you know what? I don't do it that often. I'm not going to smoke ever again. And consequently, she never smoked again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not usually the case. Usually, people who are heavy smokers, um, if you tell them to quit smoking, they'll attempt to do it for you, but they'll be, their desire is still wanting to smoke. And so they're not doing it for themselves. If they're doing it for you, it's harder for them to quit. It's just like if you ever watch Sex in the City, right? You ever watch Sex in the City? If you ever watch
Mm-hmm.
Sex in the City, there's this, back in the day, Carrie was dating this guy named Aiden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like adamant, smoking is a deal breaker for him. And
Mm-hmm.
Carrie was like, he doesn't he doesn't like smokers. So she tried everything in her power to not smoke around him. And then
Mm-hmm.
finally he found her smoking. And he really liked her, right? She said, all right, I'm gonna try to quit for you. But she couldn't. She was sneaking out and smoking whenever she could and stuff like that. You know, you don't you don't want someone to quit. The better thing for her is to find a guy who smokes. And that's why her and Big end up getting together because he smoked a cigarette with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally. So she got someone that was perfectly aligned for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people should do with online dating. Find people who are compatible for you and who are perfectly aligned for you. Don't try to change them.
No, it's not necessarily trying to change somebody, but I feel like if you, especially if your goal is marriage, right?
Hmm.
Isn't marriage based on compromises? So wouldn't you want a person that's going to demonstrate compromises or changes or growth as you're dating them before you actually sign that paper and now you're stuck with that person? I want to see that there is a progression in our relationship. I want to see that we're going to be able to make compromises and changes because you don't want to be stuck in a relationship where you don't ever grow. And so I would like to see that when I'm dating somebody. If they have bad habits. I mean, all of us should change a bad habit. And I don't have a problem if somebody has a bad habit, especially smoking, that's not good for their health. And if I'm their motivation to want to get, to quit or whatever. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, now on my profile, I do say no smokers.
Hmm.
But like for instance, I started dating this one guy who's in the Navy, and he was a smoker, but I never knew because you could never smell it. He only did vapes, and the way he would blow it out, you wouldn't even see it because So I never knew he was a smoker for forever
Mm-hmm.
until one day he just happened to pull it out in front of me. I'm like, you smoke?
Mm-hmm.
And but it was a habit he's always hidden, so it's not like he was trying to hide it from me. But I feel like, if when you meet people like that and you may not know, what their bad habits are, but they want to change them for you, I think that that's fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong.
Well, there's another factor you have to consider as well, right?
Okay,
And that factor is where you are in your life, right?
that's
As we
true.
get
That's
older, we get more set in our ways, right? So what you might have accepted in your 20s and 30s, you're not
mhm,
interested in doing it in your late 40s and 50s, right?
mhm,
So yeah, you might be willing to take someone and hope they compromise down the road, but listen, they're already 50. So at 50, let's just say for argument's sake, and you know what, let me use 45. I'm going to do 45, right?
mhm,
So they're 45, right?
mhm.
If they've been smoking this long, quite honestly, you probably don't want to change, right? Now, if you're 22 or 25, you might say, you know what, I'm going to give up smoking and or what
I
have you.
have to
But
disagree with you because I think an older person. I've seen more older people quit smoking than I've seen younger ones because I guess the fear of the end of your life coming soon, and if you can preserve any amount of time for that. But and I get that as you get older, you can become more set in your ways. But I also feel like as you get older, when you've seen so much, it's easier to be compromising as well. You realize certain things just aren't that important. I'll give you an example. When I first got married, I was so anal about how pristine my bed needed to look. First of all, you're not getting in my bed with dirty clothes.
mm,
Ever. I am so anal when it comes to stuff touching my bed. But my bed had to be pristine and completely made before you got into my bed. Now, as I'm like, I get older and I'm like, might have gone over to a guy's house and his bed's not made. That doesn't bother me anymore. Whereas I used to be, if you can't even make up your bed, the first thing you do when you get up, what kind of person are you? That's so immature. I, do you make your bed every morning, Craig?
no.
See,
Some mornings I do, some mornings I don't.
in the morning are the most successful people.
Okay, so then I better start in my bed in the morning now, I guess. You
No,
know?
I mean you're so successful now anyway. I think you can refute that. But I mean, again, as you get older, you learn to compromise on things. But there's people I've seen some marriages break up over some dumb stuff like that about not putting the dishes away properly or leaving a wet rag on the counter constantly or not making up the bed right or like little things like that. But as you get older, that's not
And,
important.
and those folks weren't in love. So, I mean, when you're in love, you don't care about that. You
But
don't
that's
care
not true.
about
You fall out
dishes
of
in the
love with
same.
someone.
I'm serious. Like those uh, little things. When you're not in love, little things are magnified. When you're in love, you overlook those things. You could care less. Oh,
Oh,
babe,
for
you put the
sure.
dishes in. Okay, no problem. Let me do it.
Oh, for
But when you
sure.
don't love the person, you're like, yo, you forgot to put the dishes in. Right? You start,
Hmm.
nitpicking and things like that. Right? I've seen it happen so often. That's why love is so important. That's why, that compatibility, right? Because let's think about it for a moment. If you and I are compatible, right? And you forget to put the dishes in, and I don't make a big deal about it, right? And the day that I don't put the dishes in or whatever, you don't make a big deal about it because we're compatible. We both of us look at it the same way. We're not nitpicking over whether the dishes went in. But I can just tell you, there was a woman that I had
Hmm.
met that was honestly, she was a neat freak, right? And
Hmm.
I saw that she would be a pain in the ass down the road, right? And even though she was attractive, hardworking, intelligent, all that kind of stuff, I was like, no, right? And she didn't know I stopped talking to her because she was a neat freak, right?
That is
Um,
horrible.
hmm?
I said, that's horrible. So, I mean, you clearly weren't in love with her.
But you know what? I liked her a lot, but one of the things that you have to be able to do, right, is you have to be able to recognize incompatibility, right? You've got to understand, like, if you're a super neat freak and I'm not, right?
Mhm.
She's gonna probably be a pain in the ass. You know why? Like for instance, she was like, "Why do you have your sneakers in the living room?" Right? And I
Mm.
said to her, the reason why the sneakers in the living room is because if I have to run out real quick to the mailbox or something like that, I need to slide on my sneakers. I don't want to have to go all the way to the bedroom to get my sneakers. So that's why I keep a pair of sneakers up here in the living room. Oh, but
Mhm.
that's so untidy and this and that, right? And was getting on my nerves about me having sneakers in my living room, right? And I'm like,
Your house? She had a problem with your house.
my house, right?
Oh, see,
And I was
that's
like,
insanity. That's not
and then
incompatibility. That's insanity.
yeah. And then, my son eats cereal every morning, right? And
Mhm.
so he eats cereal and he leaves the bowl in the sink. So
Mhm.
one bowl in the sink, and she happened to be at the kitchen table, and she's like, "There's a bowl in the sink," and I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "You should, wash it, this and that." I'm like, "I'm busy right now. I'm working at my desk. I'll take care of it later." And she was like, "Oh my God, you should take care of it now, this and that." And I'm like, she was just being kind of like a pain in the neck about the bowl being in the sink. And
Yeah.
and listen, the one thing that I've learned, right, and I learned this many years ago. I can tell you, I learned this 27 years ago. I learned this 27 years ago,
Mm. You were
right?
5 when you learned this.
27 years ago, I learned this from an ex, my daughter's mother,
Okay.
all right, which is I've learned to not ignore nuttiness, right? So
Yes.
when a woman is a little nutty about certain things,
Mhm.
she's going to be a nitpicker and she's going to be a nag about certain things, right? And so as a guy, we have to recognize that, right? You got
Mhm.
to recognize when someone is going to be a little bit of a nag about certain things, and you don't want to be dealing with that. You don't want to come
Mhm.
home to that all the time. I'm
Mhm.
sorry if I recognize someone's going to be a nag about certain things or nitpicking about certain things. You know
Mhm.
what? I'm very protective of my peace. I don't
Mhm.
have no drama in my life right now.
Yeah.
And I don't plan to have no drama either.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked one of the first questions I asked someone is, when was your last relationship? Right?
Mhm.
Because your last relationship will kind of dictate whether you're healed and over it. Right?
Mhm.
So if you were, your last relationship was maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, okay, that's a fair amount of time. You should be healed by now, hopefully. Right? But if
Mhm.
your last relationship was 3 weeks ago,
Mhm.
right? Or 2 months ago, maybe
Mhm.
you're not healed fully, right?
I think
And
it depends
so,
on what you're doing during that time as well.
well, I mean, all right. I mean, everybody is different, right? So
Mhm.
there may be people that are healed after 2 or 3 months, but
Mhm.
a guy has to recognize if the person isn't healed, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Right?
mean, period. Not just the guy, the woman has to as well.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm a firm believer in if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. There was this one guy I was dating. He was an older gentleman.
Mhm.
He was like in his mid 50s, and I missed one phone call with him because
Mhm.
he was traveling and our times were kind of off a little bit.
Right.
And then the next time he called me, he was like really upset and in his feelings that
Mhm.
I didn't call him when we said we were going to speak to each other.
Right.
And he became a little aggressive. And I'm like, are you scolding me? Because
Mhm.
I didn't call you back. Well, I'm just saying that that was not a good, that wasn't respectful of my time. So
Right.
the next time, I feel like you should be a little bit more respectful, or we're not going to have any conversations again. Or we don't have to have any more conversations ever again.
Mhm.
Like you're showing me exactly that you're too rigid. I don't deal with rigid people. I mean, I'm very schedule
Mhm.
oriented, and if you know me, you would know that I'm never late. But if you can't be flexible, I don't deal with rigidity at
Right.
all. Because
Right.
that to me, like the first sign that shows me he's controlling, I'm done. I've been in too many abusive relationships that I
Mhm.
can just see that coming a mile away, and I'm done. As soon as they
Right.
show you who they are, run for the hills.
Yeah, it's funny because the first, this is literally the first woman I met online, right? We
Mm,
exchanged numbers, and she sent me a text at 11 o'clock. And I was on a conference call for work. And then my son happened to be home that day. And I was
mm,
doing like a homework project with him, right? Because
mm-hmm,
he was working, they were doing online schooling at the time.
Mhm.
And so I didn't get back to her till about 3, right?
Mhm.
Because I was on a conference call with my cell phone, and then I had to help him with a project that had to be done by a certain time that day.
Mhm.
And so she sends me a text around 11. I didn't get back to her till about 3. And she sends, and so she had asked me a question or something like that. And I had responded to the question at 3. And she sent me this long text saying, oh, that's so, inappropriate. I sent you a text at 11. What took you so long to get back to me? This and that. And I mean, was going off. And we had only been talking for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. She
Mm-mm.
was like, I
Mm-mm.
expect you to get back to me sooner. It's been, 3 or 4 hours and this and that. And I was
Mm-mm.
like, oh,
Now, if I'm talking to somebody for 2 weeks and I've learned their patterns,
what?
and
Mm-hmm.
if that was out of your pattern, my
Mm-hmm.
response would have been, "Baby, good? Everything okay?
Mm-hmm.
Surprised I haven't heard from you in a minute."
Mm-hmm.
Not, "Oh, you should have called me back," or "What took you so long?" Or, "Oh, that's the thing that gets to me the most. That's one of my biggest peeves is when people don't give you the benefit of the doubt. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they become aggressive, the first thing I do, because I know I'm a passive person until you make
Mm-hmm.
me aggressive and you don't want me to be aggressive, I have to take my leave from you. I don't deal with aggressive people at all because I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to. And I will not. And if you show me any type of aggression, even I don't care how long we've been talking, we're done. I don't move past that. That is a complete red flag for me.
Yeah, and it's funny because as a domestic violence counselor, I always, one of the things that women in particular, what they tend to overlook is aggression, right?
Mhm.
Like how a guy talks to them,
Mhm.
how he treats you. Like, and in
Mhm.
some cultures, aggression is looked at as love, right?
Mhm.
Controlling is looked at
Mhm.
as love. Like, for instance,
Mhm.
in the Hispanic community, I'm half Puerto Rican, right? And I've
Mhm.
seen in the Hispanic community, um, physical abuse is
Mhm.
acceptable. It's kind of looked at as love, right?
Mhm.
Like one time I was shopping with a friend of mine. We was out shopping, right? And he saw a guy that he worked with, right?
Mhm.
And the guy that he worked with, he was Hispanic, a Puerto Rican guy, and he was with
Mhm.
his girlfriend, right? And they're shopping. She had some bags in her hand. He had some bags in her hand. Clearly, they're shopping. He was down at Macy's, right, in Manhattan,
Mhm.
right? So my friend said, "Yo, Jose, what's going on?" Jose's like, "Yo, what's up?" Right? And then they're talking, right? And I'm kind of off to the side. And he's like, "Yo, this is my man Craig," and I'm like, "Yo, what's up?" And we're talking. And the Hispanic dude, Jose, turns around and looks at his girlfriend, right? And the girlfriend is kind of, just kind of looking around. And there were a couple of guys that had walked by. He
Mhm.
turned around and slapped, he went, slapped the hell out of her, right? And
No.
I was like, I jumped myself. I was like, what? Right? And shook her up. He's like, what you looking at? Right? And he's like, what? She was like, what? He was like, don't look over there. You look over here, right? And she's like, okay, I'm sorry, Bobby, this and that. And I was like, and he's like, yo, let me get out of here. And we was like, all right, later. So me and him was talking, me and my boys talking, like, man, you saw this? He was like, yo, that's crazy. Like he slapped the taste out of her mouth. And I'm sure she thought that was love. Ain't
Mhm.
love. You ain't supposed to get slapped in your face. You mind your business looking other way. I mean, what? You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So it was just, I just thought it was the
Yeah.
craziest thing. That's not love, right? And so,
No, and it's interesting that you say that because I'm Black and Puerto Rican myself, and I've seen that on both sides and both sides of the culture. That even with Black men, some of them feel like once you're married, you're their property, and so
hmm
they can control everything that you do. I mean, and you may think that you're compatible with that person, and because of their control can be masked as being affection or being concern, and it's sometimes it's a little hard to see those signs and those warning signs, but when as soon as you are able to see them, they need to be believed because those situations can go so left so quickly.
yeah, you know what? That's why I'm a very big proponent of compatibility, and this is why we're discussing it tonight because You should really realistically, and if people haven't done this, and I discussed this in my book,
Mhm.
you should realistically write down what's important to you, right?
Mhm.
And be on the lookout for it, right?
Mhm.
Because if you don't know yourself well enough and what you're specifically looking for, you might miss
Mhm.
it, right?
Yeah.
So know yourself, know whether you're, because compatibility is essential to the
Mhm.
success of a relationship, right? Like for instance, I'll give you a certain compatibility things, right?
Mhm.
For instance, if I'm dealing with someone, one of the first things I want to know, are you a night owl or an early riser, right?
Mhm.
Because I know someone who's compatible with me is going to
Mhm.
probably be someone who's a night owl.
Mhm.
Because I can be a night owl more
Mhm.
so than an early riser.
Yeah.
So
I'm
quite
the same.
honestly, I'm going to want somebody who's going to hang out with me at night. There going to be
Mhm.
times I'm like, babe, come on, let's watch a movie. It's going to be 11, 12 o'clock at night, and we just popped on a movie, enjoying a
Mhm.
movie. So I
Mhm.
know someone who's a night owl is probably going to be more compatible with me, right?
Mhm.
I know someone who is a foodie is
Mhm.
going to be more compatible with me. If you're a
Mhm.
vegan, right, and you're talking about, hey, I want to go to a vegan restaurant and they
Mhm.
don't eat meat and all this other kind of stuff,
Mhm.
bye.
Mhm.
Because I'm sorry, I'm going to go get me a steak. And so
Mhm.
we're not compatible in that
Mhm.
regard, right? If you're a big introvert, right,
Mhm.
we can be cool in the gang, we could be friends, but
Right.
can we be partners? Probably not.
Right.
I don't want someone who, they can't express themselves. They don't know how to talk. They get
Right.
around other people. They're like, oh my God, I don't want someone like that. I
Mhm.
want
That's
someone who's
somebody
outgoing,
that
who,
timid. Yeah.
right, who can engage people on any
Mhm.
level,
Mhm.
right? They're gonna feel comfortable. I had a friend who used to bring his wife to the barbecue, and she would sit in a corner with a screw face the entire time because she
Mhm.
didn't know how to engage people, right?
Mm.
She didn't know how to have a conversation with people, and so what would happen is she would be like, "When are we leaving?" Right?
Mm.
And we go, and he's like, I want to, play cards. I want to play dominoes. I want to do what? And she's like, "When are we leaving? It's time.
Mhm.
We've been here half an hour. Let's go." And she
Mhm.
would just be forcing him, and he'd be like, "All right,
Yeah.
I'm out."
Mhm.
So
I look
looking
at
for,
relationships like that as people who just want to be married and not necessarily are in love with the person that they're with. They just like the idea of marriage. And that drives me nuts. But I love the idea that you said of like writing it down what you're looking for, because I think that that forces you to be introspective and honest with yourself. Because I think a lot of us will say, "Oh, I can deal with this. Oh, I can deal with that. Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that."
hmm
But when you have to write it down and you really have to process it, you'll start to realize no. And I also feel like something that I personally do, and I don't know if I think that this is a good idea for most people to do, is therapy, especially after a serious relationship, because I feel like that's what helps grow your emotional intelligence, for you to
hmm
really see, okay, what part did you play in the end of a relationship, or what were you really able to deal with and what are you not able to deal with, so that you can learn what your real love language is. Everybody says, oh, it's acts of service, but for you it may not actually be acts of service. Or I think everybody likes to throw those buzzwords. Oh, it's kind words, daily affirmations. No, it's not. That's not your real love language. Like, just stop.
I know mine is gifts. I tell you in a heartbeat.
Giving, exactly, and that's me. I'm a giver, and I am truly acts of service. Like, I love doing things for people. I love, hell, I mean, you saw me. I drove all the way to Georgia just to meet you. Like, I love doing things for people. It makes me happy to do things for people. Um, but I feel like you really need to know yourself as well, to be able to find out like how compatible that you can actually be with a person, and get past this whole. I think I've been finding a lot of people with that young 20s mindset. I think some of us forget that we're over 40 now,
hmm
and the stuff
Yeah,
that we're looking for, and it's like, are you serious? That's really what you want? I don't think you've never really managed a household then, if that's something that's important to you. Like, you really
right.
need to show a little bit more emotional maturity, not just intelligence, but maturity as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I completely agree. But once again, you have to recognize what you're looking for and
Mm-hmm.
make certain, and there's certain compromises. You're right. There's certain compromises. For instance, I wouldn't discard somebody because they don't like horror pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like horror pictures, but there are a lot of women who don't like horror pictures, won't watch a horror picture. I'm not saying, you know what, that's something that we can't. I'll go to watch a
Yeah.
horror picture by myself if
Mm-hmm.
need be, right? But there's certain, like for instance, I like to travel. I met this one woman a long time ago who says she doesn't like to fly. Right? I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
passport. I don't like to fly. Never been anywhere other than, places that you can drive to.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incompatibility. That it won't work. And I don't care how fine she is, how smart she is.
Mm-hmm.
We can't work because how are we going to be together when I'm talking about, listen, let's fly to Paris. Let's fly to Tibet. And she's like, well, I don't fly this and that. Leads, it's destined to fail. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And that's why you have to find compatibility.
Take
You
a
know,
cruise. You
yeah, I mean, but
can be flexible.
yeah, I mean, you can drive, but certain places you can't take a cruise to. You know what I mean? Like, unless you plan to take a cruise for like the next 30 days. You know what I mean? Like, you can't take a cruise to Germany. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because it would take forever. Right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to fly there. So, I mean, there's certain things you want to make certain that you're compatible with.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So that, if I'm being honest, that's one of the reasons why I am personally excited about your book. I've been trying to get you to let me proofread some of it just so I could get a little taste. Because I look at it also as a guide for people. Because I think a lot of people are just out there trying to wing it and not really know what they're doing. And I'm like, there needs to be something because this is ridiculous. I feel like I'm a teacher.
hmm
Like I gotta teach men how to date, and it's honestly frustrating. Like I even told you, like I was ready to just come off of all the sites because it was just getting so annoying going through all the number of people, and it gets a little discouraging too. Like why are there so many people out here that are just emotionally stupid? Like, and you're this old.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? A lot of it has to do with obviously their background, right? Like for instance, there was this one woman that I met. She was married for 19 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her and her husband were really intimate, right? And so she was, she didn't know anything about dating, you know what I mean? Like she didn't know any, like, I mean, it was just the craziest thing,
Mm-hmm.
because she wasn't exposed to someone, she didn't date a lot prior to her husband. So there are people in that situation where they've never dated,
Mm-hmm.
right? They got with their high school sweetheart, was with them for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're clueless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've never been out there, right? So for some of those folks, it takes a little while to kind of recognize, like, okay, this is, where I am now. This is what I'm going to need to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I need to find out, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book because
Mm-hmm.
you got to kind of sit down and understand uh, what some people are looking for, some of the
Mm-hmm.
things that they dislike. Like for instance, I'm not a big fan of WYD, right?
Oh yeah.
They say, remember I was telling you about that WYD, what you doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm handling my business. That's what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, so, um, you know, they should know. Like, some people are not a fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
They should know that,
I'm gonna start texting you. Good morning. What you doing?
and what you're going to get is a thumb down like this.
I'm good. What's up? What's up, boo? Take it, Philly. What's up, boo?
Yeah. So I mean, and so yeah, and so just for the record, the book should be available hopefully sometime next week. What's today? Tomorrow. They're supposed to be shipping it tomorrow, so it should be available sometime next week. And I look forward to people reading it because I think it's going to
Yeah.
give some people some insight as to, particularly guys, right? Because and one of the things that we're probably going to discuss in a future show is that first conversation and flirting, right? Because that first conversation, quite honestly, is critical.
Mhm.
right? Because that first conversation is going to kind of determine, in some cases, how much further this relationship goes, right?
Mhm.
And so you got to ask certain questions.
Mhm.
I mean, I have a friend who met someone, married them pretty quickly, and didn't ask enough questions, right? So
Mhm.
there's certain questions like you want to ask in the beginning. There's some
Mhm.
questions you want to ask in the middle, and then there's some
Mhm.
questions you want to ask towards the end, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm very big on scenario questions, like how do you
Mhm.
deal with this,
Oh
right?
yeah. How do you
Um,
handle conflicts, or how did you handle
right,
your last argument, or who was it with, and how did that go? How did you resolve it?
right, exactly.
Mhm.
Because if you don't ask those questions, what's going to happen is if it occurs and the person just starts wilding out, you've been with this person a year. You didn't recognize it, you didn't ask these questions. Like these things you
Mhm.
have to ask early on. So
Mhm.
that way you know how they deal with certain things. And
Mhm.
hopefully, if they handle things inappropriately, you learn before you
Yep.
get all involved in someone.
Mhm.
You don't want to fall in love with someone. You know how
Mhm.
many times I've heard a woman say, "Oh, I was in love with him, this and that," and he starts wilding out, right? And I'm like, well, like I'll give you an example. I've heard women say, "Well, my husband was a bad communicator," right? And I'm like, "Well, how long did you date him before you married him?" "Oh, we dated for about a year." Okay. And so you dated for a year, you married him, and the reason why you broke up was because he was a bad communicator. Well, how was he before you married him, right? She's like, "Well, you know what? He was never a great communicator, but I thought he would get better."
See, I got a problem with that.
Well,
Mm-mm.
why would you think he's going to get better,
Mm-mm.
right? It's kind of like the woman that gets with a guy, excuse me, gets with a guy, and the guy already has kids, right? He
Mhm.
doesn't take care of his kids. He could care less about his kids. She
Mhm.
gets with the guy because she likes him or what have you, and then she decides to have kids with him.
Mhm.
And then he runs out on her, right? And she's like, "Well, he ran out on me and my kids." Well, he didn't take care of his kids, the ones he had before you. So why would you think he's going to take care of the kids that you're going to have with him,
Mhm.
right? So if your desire is to have kids, he probably wasn't a good choice to begin with. Now, if you wanted to get with him and you knew straight up, I'm not having no more kids. I ain't having no kids with him.
Right.
Maybe he's a good choice. But
Mhm.
he already demonstrated that he wasn't a good father with the kids that he already have. You kind of
Mhm.
can tell. So that's once again why compatibility is so important,
Mhm.
right? Because and
Mhm.
I see them say, they want a guy who's family oriented. Of course,
Mhm.
if you have kids, you need to get a guy that's family oriented. If you get
Mhm.
with him and he ain't family oriented, and but you're lusting for him, you're attracted to him and stuff like
Mhm.
that, everything's cool. But then now the kids, eventually he's going to be around your kids and stuff like that, and he's cursing in
Mhm.
front of your kids, right? Or he's smoking a joint in front of your kids, right? Stuff
Mhm.
like that. Like, listen, you got to be able to recognize these things, these
Mhm.
compatibility issues,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think I'm just sitting here listening to you, and like so many things are like going through my mind. Like one of the points that you had made, backpedaling a little bit about when the person who was married for like 19 years and then having to trying to be back out there to date again. I know that was like my case when I first started dating. I was a teenager. So, and
Hmm.
plus I was in a very religious household, so we had to have chaperones. We were never alone. My parents were always around. So, excuse me, trying to learn how to date as an adult, completely different. Completely different. And learning how to have that, conversation. Like, what should the first conversation be about? I don't know. Having to learn all of those things all over again, has been a challenge. Very, very challenging.
Yes, yes. So
But
once again, our hour is up. I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe and share with your family and friends the the good, the bad, and the odd of online dating podcast. I want to thank my host, Arena Duhart, wonderful as always. I couldn't do this
Thank
without you,
you.
you
Thank
know.
you.
And we will see you next week. We had some technical difficulties this evening. Hopefully, we don't have them next week, so we can start on time. But I want
Mhm.
to thank everyone who joined us, and we will see you same bad channel, same bad time next Tuesday, every Tuesday at 9. All right,
Mhm.
and have a good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.